So let's look at it. Let's look at dating and relationship advice from a Carl Jung, a Jungian psychological perspective, right? So here's the thing, right? I mean, I look trying to keep it as superficial as I can, right? Think about it as approaching a massive business deal or a job, or let's say you're buying something that you really want, right? This is the, this is the really critical word right there. Want. Okay. Sorry. Critical word. You're buying something that you really want, not that you need. All right. If you need it, that's it. You've already lost the deal. All right. You cannot negotiate whatever interview you're in, whether you're buying a car or whatever it is. Could be a house, anything, a job interview. It's just human psychology, right? It's negotiation. The moment you realize, or even if you don't realize that you're not willing to walk away, then you've already lost the deal, right? Try and approach this the same way when it comes to dating, even relationships, even serious relationships, right? This is the really hard thing. This is what no one will admit on in thousands and thousands of fucking hours of content, man, on this topic. Really, I don't even think I've seen in the last 2 years, even the top influencers on YouTube, right, will admit the prerequisite before you even approach any fucking dating app or a serious relationship or whatever girl you like. You have to truly, your subconscious has to truly be convinced of how the feminine psyche really works, right? And I can't think of any other way for your subconscious to really be convinced other than trauma. Trauma is literally the language, it's the communication of the subconscious, right? You can't convince your subconscious that this woman is gonna she's behaving in really primitive survival instinct, primitive way when it comes to anything, even in modern dating, right? You have to have gone through enough heartbreak. It really is. It's exactly like, it's my favorites. The Tates always say, I love, you know, especially Andrew. Like, I would recommend taking more advice when it comes to this topic, definitely from Tristan, because even though they're obviously on exactly the same frequency, when you listen to Andrew, it's like he kind of just can't be bothered getting serious, and he just goes on these manic tangents and just is when it comes to girls, he just goes schizophrenic, and he just kind of just doesn't take it seriously, right? Um, but pretty much that's what they're saying. That's the message. That's why he's laughing at all the bozos just trying their hardest. You know what I mean? He sees all like guys around him in clubs or whatever. Just they got the money, they got the looks, they got everything, but the way they try, it's just written all over their body language that they need it. They need the affection, they need the attention, the validation, from the opposite sex. This is what I'm saying. You have to behave in a way where your subconscious is 100% convinced, right? Not belief. It's conviction that the girl you're talking to, it doesn't matter what app, doesn't matter where you met her, doesn't matter how you've approached her, it doesn't matter, honestly, I mean, cultural background has the most influence, but it's still not as significant. It's really not significant. Like her biology, her evolved consciousness is, I don't know how many years old, 1 million, 2 million years old, right? So 99% of her evolution has been conditioned to believing that, see, her subconscious survival instinct, right? Her maternal survival nature knows that, her survival physically depends on her her ability to master male psychology, right? To master the masculine behavior and psychology, right? And then to master it and then to use it to her advantage to be able to attract and select the right male partner that's going to secure her safety and secure her enough subconsciously for her to feel safe enough to give her offspring, right? It's literally, I mean, it's biological, right? This is nature. Her feminine survival instinct it's a biological process. It's a force of nature, right? And all it knows is survival and propagating, right? That's all it knows. It's primitive. It's instinctual. Doesn't matter how. I mean, we've been living in what, the modern world, not even 0.01% of our human history, right? We've only had like accessible groceries, the last 100, 200 years, literally. I mean, actually, yeah, barely the last 100 years, This is what you have to have full conviction of, not belief. Belief is faith. It's like, faith is like 99% convinced. You have to have full conviction. It's like, walking down the street, the dangers. You can see them, You're not going to act in a way that's going to risk, whatever consequence you're going to have by just having faith. You see something, you've got full conviction, man. And the way to have that full conviction, it's subconscious. You can't meditate this, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know any other way other than just pure heartbreak, pure heart, soul dismantling trauma, literally. There's a few big channels I was watching. What's his name? The American guy on YouTube. There's a couple, and I just I laugh, man. I can't help but laugh, especially these like dark anonymous Sigma alpha kind of channels, right? Just they use all these AI graphics, kind of showing the girl kind of figure on the leash, and you got the thumbnails like how to make her beg for it or something. you know? I don't know, how to get away with cheating or something. It's that. I mean, you could see obviously like, all right, they know I mean, they have an understanding when it comes to masculine attention being the reward, right? But you don't need to be that emotional, You don't need to take everything that personally. I just think of some of the videos I watched. The way they do it is like, because they have this knowledge, right? They do have this knowledge, especially this guy that I was watching. He's pretty big. What's his name? Casey Alexander or something. He's pretty big. I think he's one of the biggest dating coaches channels, whatever, in America. It's sad to see, like, someone that has that kind of immature, fuck boy, bad boy, kind of, professional dating expertise, has the biggest following of you know, insecure young men just kind of lashing out on whoever they date, you know, through emotional insecurity. You know, it's that's what I see anyway. I see insecurity. Like, I mean, I agree with a lot. Honestly, I agree with how, I mean, the confidence and how much he values, you know, his masculine attention, you know, and his male advantage. I mean, 100%. I couldn't agree more. You know, it's just the way they go about it. Like, it's pretty emotional. You know, I find it pretty emotional anyway. Like, um, you know, she doesn't reply the next day. You know, you give her one text, she doesn't reply, or depending on her excuse, you know, you make her apologize or something. You know what I mean? You wait for an apology or something like that. Like, it's like they know the knowledge that they need to have, right, to be attractive. You know what I mean? To appear as a high value, uh, have high sexual marketplace value, whatever, right? But they abuse it. All right, this is where I'll differ. Like, once you have full conviction, and I don't know how you're gonna get there. Like, if you haven't gone through proper, like, genuine, like I said, proper heartbreak, just life heartbreak, right? Any serious relationship, then I don't know how else really to. Um, sorry, dry throat. I mean, I'm trying to think, like, how deep you need to meditate to really have full conviction. I mean, you can't. The trauma, you know, the subconscious doesn't communicate through affirmations and words. You know, it's emotion, it's trauma, right? That's the language of the subconscious. Once it's convinced of this biological fact of how the maternal survival instinct chooses a male partner, then you naturally behave accordingly, man. Your subconscious is the puppeteer, man. Once it knows the truth, then it starts to shift and act accordingly, and then it just controls your actions and behavior just naturally, in a way where, you know, she's going to be able to sense. Like, this is what you have to have full conviction of. You know, the girl can sense truly whether your energy is coming from a place of need or want, need or desire, right? Obviously, she wants to rely on somebody that's approaching her out of pure desire. You know, doesn't need, he's good with it, he's good without it. She can sense that, man. This is what you have to be 100% convinced of. You have to act in a way that you are convinced that if you're just acting the way you are normally, right? Not following just the fucking bullshit dating script through the dating textbooks. You know, this is something else I agree with a lot on these mainstream dating coaches, right? These Sigma, Alpha dating coaches is, you know, you never follow the bullshit script. Don't get sucked into the game, right? I'm pretty sure this whole dating concept, I can't remember, I think I must have seen it on like an Insta reel or something. The whole dating concept was invented by a female, right? By a woman. You know, you're like, understand that you're entering a game that's been designed by, you know, a feminine subconscious, which is, you know, naturally the perpetual victim, right? And it's not in, I don't know, look, whatever. Gets me banned, you know. Truth gets you in trouble, right? It's nothing harmful. It's not bad. It's nothing to be scared of. Like, it's nothing even, you know, for the girl to really be scared of, to be ashamed of. I don't know if any girls listen to this, but like, it's not that she knows, I mean, consciously she's not a victim, Consciously, she's independent, she's working hard. Consciously, she knows she doesn't need the guy, right? But her subconscious survival instinct, no matter how much success or independence she has, it knows the only way to propagate offspring and fulfill her, her natural, her, nature's purpose is by securing the right male partner, right? So it's, treat the game as, being designed by the perpetual victim, meaning they can't lose. It's a win-win for them. It's rigged, man. It's a win-win for them. It's lose-lose for the guy. The only way you really win, or the only way you even make it past the first level, is by not participating in the game, making it clear or optional if she wants to enter your game. Once she enters your playing field, by showing her how much you don't need the date or the attention or the relationship, she can sense that, man. This is what you have to be fully convinced of. And then once she senses that, then you start planning, all right, what you want to do, completely on your terms, right? She doesn't even know. She might not even, consciously she's disagreeing. You know what I mean? Like, whatever it is, you want to meet up during the day, nice little chill, lunch date, coffee date, whatever, you know what I mean? Walk down the shops. Consciously, she's like, no, what the fuck? This isn't enough. This isn't the dating script. He's got to pick me up. He's got to take me out to fucking, some fine dining connoisseur, winery or something. Like, obviously her head's thinking, superficial, the dating script consciously, right? Even when you get sucked in, I mean, look at these poor idiots. They just get sucked into it. Like, I see them when I'm talking to them on dates, they'll show me like the conversations, or because I tell them like, or they tell me like, how quickly they became interested once they saw how nonchalant I was when it came to small talk, right? Like, I'll just tell them, I'd rather literally stare at the wall. You know what I mean? I'm not going to small talk. I can't. Like, they'll ask me, obviously, the script, the interview, where are you? Where do you live? What area? Who do you live with? What do you do? What do you do? You know what I mean? Like, this one I went on a date with, remember she was telling me, she just laughed. She was like, what do you do? I'm just like, oh man, I wish I could show you the conversation. I don't know if she's unmatched, but I was like, I leave my apartment for a few hours, get paid, come back 8 or 9 hours later, go down, hit the gym, hit the sauna, come up, cook my steaks, go to sleep, happy, And she just laughed. She's like, yeah, cool, She's like, I love it. Routine, nice, or whatever. We were talking for like 2 weeks, you know what I mean? And then on the date, she's like, oh, you never really told me what you did. And I just laughed. I was like, well, all right, fair enough, yeah, this is what I do, And she was just like, oh, nice, cool, She's like, I mean, this is what you have to be convinced of. It's like, consciously they think they need to ask these things. They think they need to ask the script because, like, especially if they're new to dating or if they just got out of like a long relationship, or, I mean, it's one or the other, right? They're either new to dating, been through relationships, or they might not be new to dating, but they might be new to this kind of response from a guy, right? And then you just have to act in full conviction. Like, you got to be confident that by you sounding maybe a bit rude, by not just following the script, either you're going to secure like, an 8, at least an 8 or a 9 or a 10, or, you saved yourself literally time and headache. Literally. Like, you just got to detach, You detach from the lust. I mean, good luck. Like, I don't know if I haven't really I mean, if I could think of a coach or a channel that speaks about detaching from lust, I really would recommend it. There's only one guy I watch. He's from Australia as well. Fuck, man, I love this guy. He's probably my favorite channel. Small channel, but it's very spiritual. He's very, semen retention, discipline. He's not really doesn't really talk about dating. But if you want to watch him, self revealed on YouTube, right? He's from New South Wales. He's like mixed Australian Islander. It's crazy. Like a small channel from country, like rural Australia. Like out of all the influences and the fucking the endless hours out there on dating and just masculinity and I can't think of a channel that's the first thing they say. All right, detach from lust. Detach in the first place. I mean, how are you supposed to do that? How are you supposed? This is why they don't really say it, because it's kind of like saying, you rock up to your first training session, right? I don't know, you're trying to make fucking whatever sport, let's say, you just got drafted, whatever, Premier League, NBA, Formula One, and you rock up first day and, the coach is like, look, the only way you're going to make the team is if you got, 15 years experience, and you're like 16 years old, 17 years old. You know what I mean? It just, it scares 80-90% off. They're like, oh, well, we tried, whatever, we missed out. You're telling them to do the impossible. It's literally impossible. You cannot do it consciously. You can't do it consciously, man. You can only do it through, experience, life experience, This is what I love about Tate. Like, he knows this so well, but he doesn't. It's like he knows, that 80 or 90, 95% of his competitors haven't gone through the masculine initiation that he has. And he's not humble about it, but in a royal kind of pathology, right? Because he's always going, like, he laughs at him, you know what I mean? He's just smoking his cigar and he laughs at him. It's hard, it's really hard to explain his behavior, like why I just find it so intriguing and appealing, because it's like he's not gatekeeping. He knows it's a villain's laugh. He really is, the villain archetype, the pathology. Mania and schizophrenia are actually, royal pathologies. They're shadow king archetype, right? They stem from that that psyche, that psychological configuration of the shadow king, right? It's actually a royal pathology. That's why and he knows it. He knows it. That's why I just laugh, because he makes fun. He almost, he abuses. He really does. He abuses his competitors and his haters because he knows that they cannot achieve, possibly, not even with like the achievements, the physical stuff. It's just psychological, you know what I mean? They cannot get to his frequency, even no matter how hard they tried, because they just haven't gone through the initiation required. They haven't detached from the lust. And he knows it. He knows they'll never be able to do it because they just didn't have the upbringing that he had. And he takes advantage, and it's just humorous. It truly is evil. Not evil, it's truly villainous. But I love it. So I don't know if this is advice. It sounds irrational. It is. Detach from lust. Detach from emotion, detach from reaction from other women. You have to physically, the only thing you can do consciously is detach your identity from the reaction. that they give your identity, whether it's rejection or how they speak to you. You know what I mean? Do not put your emotional outcome, your emotional state, dependent on how they value it. Do you understand what I'm saying? The moment you give value to how they perceive your masculinity, you've already lost. Give that value to yourself, detach it from any external force, agenda, adversity, any tribulation. Just detach what your identity is. Do not make it dependent on what she thinks of it. And she will sense that, man. This is the only advice you need. I don't care what city, I don't care what culture, what religion. We're talking biology, man. We're talking human psychology. This is human psychology. I don't care if you're watching from West Ghana, Romania, Eastern Europe, the most Western, modern, superficial cities. I don't care. I mean, really, it doesn't. Yeah. I don't know if it was 100% clear. I think it was a bit. I mean, I think I could elaborate, at least as much as I need to, yeah, just once you have full conviction and you see her start to recognize that, and you see her behavior start to yield and appreciate and respect, then don't abuse it. This is what these channels tell you to do. Like, then you make her work for it. You know what I mean? Don't. Once you've shown the wall, right? And her ego hasn't been that disrespectful enough to, thinks that she can barge through it because you couldn't resist from her lust or the attraction, right? Once you can recognize that her ego, that you've let the wall down and you've let her ego in, right? Once you can recognize that her ego understands that it made it past because you let her, not because you couldn't resist, right? Don't abuse that. Show the love, show the affection, text, double text, triple text, fucking whatever it is, send her flowers, just then you can, she's in, she's recognized, right? Subconsciously that she's in, okay, I'm in now. I'm in because he's let me, he let the wall down. I'm in. I'm not going to abuse it. You know what I mean? I understand. Then, don't be the fucking douchebag, bro. Appreciate, love it. Like, show her whatever affection, attention, call her, you know what I mean? Because now subconsciously she knows she earned it. You know what I mean? And her feminine subconscious, her validation, her hypergamy will recognize this, man. Anyway, good luck to you. Good luck to you.